So maybe will you just, that's a little bit of background, but will you just talk a little bit more about who you are? And I'm interested in finding out what part of business you're really passionate about and interested in.
That's a really good question. Well, I'm not so interested in business per se these days, but in business as a vehicle for other things, because I believe that money is just a symbolic representation of the transfer of value, and it doesn't have to be that way in society. Society is that way right now because that's the system that we've developed. Before that, we had barter. So I'm more interested in just using business as a vehicle to give people a certain amount of freedom so that they can have an impact on the rest of the world, and that's kind of where I'm thinking these days.
What kind of, you've been sitting through this whole thing.
Great, by the way. Just give me that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you. What are some of the things that resonated with you in terms of things you might be able to talk to around, marketing, getting customers, that kind of thing? Which are the things that clicked and you felt like you might be able to add?
From what we've heard so far today?
Yeah.
Over the last couple days?
Last couple days, yeah.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it, it's interesting. Our thinking is very similar, and it's funny. There's this old song by, I can't remember this band in the 1980s, and I'm sure I'm dating myself by even saying this, and the song was, well, actually it was based on a piece of literature, and it was, everything that rises must converge, right? And the idea is, as you start to kind of, get more and more mastery at whatever it is that you're doing, you kind of see things very similarly to other people because there are similar paths that we go to. So, I think that for me right now, what you were talking about people, because we're building a new organization right now, and, it's been sort of in the quiet developmental stages over a couple of years. We're just laying the infrastructure down. We got about 30 people now, and we're starting to get, a little bit of that chaos, where that's coming in. And just what you've been talking about people management and the personality types, I've seen that go on in other organizations that I've been involved in, but it's great to hear somebody verbalize and say, oh man, I'm not crazy. Yeah, someone else is seeing that, Yeah. So yeah, that resonated very well.
Yeah, you can't see these things until you have the hindsight, typically, to see them.
Totally, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Another thing, I don't know why this just popped in while you were saying that, as I've observed our business growing, you put a creative person in charge of something, what kind of people do you think that they bring on their team if you leave them alone to do it without any experience?
Crazy, disorganized,
a bunch of people just like them, and they don't want any of those other types.
And I was that guy in charge for a while.
Were you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to be careful. What have you learned about, who would be interested in learning couple of internet-specific marketing tips? Yeah? Okay, good.
Half of everybody, almost everybody.
I think everybody.
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you don't want to have any internet marketing tips at all.
Okay, there we go.
There we go.
There's the truth.
I think we figured it out.
Yeah.
If you were an entrepreneur right now and you had a business and you were doing a few $100,000 or $1 million or $2 million in business, which that's most of the people in this room, and you were just, really figuring it out, what are some things that you think, and some of these people are actually pretty good internet marketers, but what are some of the things you've learned that they might not know?
Well, one interesting phenomenon that I've tried to teach people over the years, and I say try because some of it has really stuck very, very well, and you'll understand why I say that in a second. And some of it, some of the more advanced stuff, I try to tell people, look, if you really want to take it to that next level, this is what you got to do, but there's a lot of effort involved. So that particular phenomenon or I guess exploit is something I call integration marketing, and there are two levels of it. There's a basic level and an advanced level, and it started out when we were doing ebooks in the early days, back when I remember calling people up saying, hey, can I publish your book as an ebook? And they're like, nobody's going to buy an ebook. I want a book I can hold, right? And look at it now, it's obviously very different, but after the sale of the ebook and after people were opting into newsletters and things, I just sort of, all of a sudden it clicked with me that there was real estate that was sitting there that was underutilized, right? And a good friend of mine, Joe Sugarman, who was the pioneer of the infomercial, I remember him saying something about how when people would call in and order blue blockers, does anybody know the blue blockers? Yeah. And it's just, he's a genius with what he does. And when you call up to buy a pair of blue blockers, you don't walk away with one pair of blue blockers. You got some for your dog, you got some for your grandma, and the idea was, upselling and cross-selling, right? And it sort of tuned me into that. I thought, oh, okay, people are doing this at McDonald's. I saw it everywhere, but then it didn't click with me for a little while, until I was looking at what was going on online, that it wasn't happening online. So I said, okay, look on the thank you page of these ebooks. We'll give people this offer for this service we had called ROI Bot, which was like the first ad tracking company on the net. And we said, look, for free for the first month, because we had their credit card details. It was beautiful. Just click this, and you get a free month. And then, you can cancel anytime, but, you can continue on with this. Probably a few people in here might remember those early days. But that was the beginning of something that was really powerful. But now everybody's doing that now, right? Everybody's putting not everybody, but a lot of smart guys are putting upsells on. I noticed you do it. Guys are sort of even trailing cross-sells and upsells and downsells and taking that to new levels. If you're not doing that, you're out of your mind because it's just such easy money. But you have to do it in an honest way. Like a lot of guys will do this bait and switch thing. Like with a landing page, if somebody comes in and makes a promise, now you guys don't do this at all. You guys are very upfront. You guys promise something and you deliver what's promised. You give the value. But some people say, hey, just give me your name and email address and we'll give you all this stuff. And then you find out on the next page, well, actually, no, we're not going to give it to you. You got to buy this other thing, right? So that's not the way to be doing the upselling. That's a bait and switch, which is kind of a scam, Anyway, that's basic integration marketing. The idea is you're integrating one marketing process into another of your marketing processes, right? Now that's extremely powerful, and that will double, triple, quadruple your profit when you start doing that right and you get the optimization correct.
Do you have any case studies of that, or could you talk to a couple of examples?
Well, the earliest examples, were again on the back end of the ebooks. We had a free offer for the 1 month of ROI Bot, which is amazingly effective, by the way, because you've got a double thing going on there. Not only have you selected for people who are interested in something, but you've qualified people as the buyer, and now you're giving them a super low risk deal. And we got it to a point where we had the conversion up to about 50%, like 50% of the people who bought the ebook were doing the free trial, which was, it's an insane rate. But here's where it got really cool, right? So the advanced thing, and when this idea clicked in my head, I literally could not sleep. Like it was like 2 o'clock in the morning and I was like jittering, man, I got to talk to somebody about this and get this going. And I said, wait a minute. So there were a few people by then doing the ebooks on their own. This is right by around like 97 when it started to pick up and other people were doing it. And I said, hey, why don't I find, people selling products that, are of similar interest to the same market and offer this on their thank you pages, because nobody was doing it. And like, when I saw that, I realized, my God, that opens up this insanely cool channel where, there's really no limit of the partnership you can get. So I went through a hassle trying to explain this to my marketing staff because they just didn't get it. And I had this little shtick down where I'd call them up on the phone. I finally created this thing on the fly where I'd call up a prospect who I was going to offer this to, and I would say, hey, look, how many, orders are you getting a day? And of course they're going to exaggerate, right? Which only works in my favor in that case because it makes it sound better. So they would tell me how many sales, and I'd say, look, we're getting 50% on this. Let's just say conservatively you guys get 5%. You guys are doing nothing with your thank you page now. And by the way, you can still find these deals. Go buy stuff or opt into stuff and where nothing happens on the thank you page. Like how many percentage of the time do you see that? Like what, 75% where nothing happens? So we would go out and we'd find these deals, call these guys up, and I would do a little math. I'd have even like a little clickety-clack calculator there, doing the math for them. And I would basically show how at the end of a year, this is how much money we would pull out of thin air for them by doing this, just by adding like a little line of code onto their thank you page and integrating the offer. Now, that single idea, that construct, blew up our business more than anything else. We went from being a pretty successful business, outrageously successful. Now, there are a few guys, actually, there's one guy in the room. Is Telman Knudsen in here? Telman, I taught this to a couple years ago. Telman and his crew.
Hey, Telman.
Telman is a genius marketer over there. He and his crew, and he's got an amazing group of guys that he works with, they're actually taking this to heart now, and they're going out and they're finding these deals. And I don't know if we can get results from Telman on that, but if you want to hear from Telman how he's doing, but that's been a transformative impact on his business. Is that fair to say?
Do you want to share it all? Do you want to share? You want to run over here to the mic? By the way, I didn't realize you were here, Telman. I didn't recognize you with the new style.
Telman stole my hair, I think, is what happened. I took his.
Telman, as it turns out, is the guy that introduced me to this guy. And so, welcome, Telman, and thank you very much for the introduction.
You're very welcome.
So, you want to talk to that for just a sec?
Yeah, the tactic, the principle that Mark's sharing with you guys here. 3 years ago, I started a business on $50 in my apartment. you know, and we've applied this very, very aggressively for, I don't know, what, past 2 years more or less. It's our primary marketing tactic, is we go out and we find situations where people are working really hard and they're making a little bit of money. And we find ways so we can help them, you know, double, triple, quadruple how much money they're making. There was one situation where we applied this with Harris Fellman and Merlin Homes from 12-week intensive. They were doing a teleseminar series, and we took a look at their thank you page. We applied this with the Viral Marketing Chemistry Set, which was a product that Mark and I created together. I think we generated something like $80,000 extra in sales in a 13-week period.
Let's focus on the word extra for a second here.
Extra.
Right?
It was a five minutes of work. It was literally 5 minutes of work, and we generated an extra 80 grand. Half of it went to Harris and Merlin. Half of it went to us. And it turned into a pretty good story. So, you know, that was just one example that, you know, a lot of people saw, at least in the internet marketing community. And we've gone on to do this all over the place, not only with our marketing and internet products, but we have all these self-improvement and attention deficit disorder products that we apply it to across the board as well. It's very, very powerful. And the best part is when you call somebody up, it's not hard to convince them to spend 5 or 10 minutes to potentially double or more their sales, depending on how good your system is. And it costs nothing up front. You know, it costs zero up front, and you end up building some really, really great relationships with other businesses. So I have to, you know, take my hat off to Mark for teaching me that. It was incredibly, incredibly powerful. And if you just do a little tiny bit of that, you know, 1 or 2 days a week, you can exponentially increase the amount of sales that you're getting. It's very, very powerful.
Thanks.
I would like to nominate that idea as the best single new internet marketing tactic that I've heard this year, probably.
Wow.
Any seconds on that one? That's just a pretty damn good, simple little idea. I see Brad running out the door to go call up some sites to.
Where's Jason Moffat? He's probably like already put up an integration marketing site by now, I think.
Exactly.
Well, actually, let me point something out, though. Now, Tellman said that he was using this as a tactic, but actually the real difference is that Tellman has started to use this on a strategic level now, right? So like part of his overall growth strategy is that he's looking for these types of opportunities. It's like you find this point in someone else's marketing process where nothing is happening but could,
right.
you know? Yeah.